This is Karen Ramsey of Super Healthy Children, and I am so excited to be here with John Kohler. We are at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, and John came out here from California. He has some wonderful websites. One of his websites is discountjuicers.com. And how many? You have other websites. I know.
Yeah, I have Discount Juicers. I have my main websites are discountjuicers.com,okraw.com, which is where I share my raw food teachings and lifestyle, and finally growingyourgreens.com, where I teach people how to grow their own food at home. I think that's the one most important thing that anybody could do in this day and age.
Wow. I sat in on a workshop that John did today on growing your own greens, and it was really powerful stuff. So John, can you tell us, like a family who wants to find out more about how to grow their food, what are the best ways to get the most nourishing plant foods for the family?
Well, so the best ways to get the most nourishing plant foods is to simply grow it yourself. Now the question might come up, John, how do I grow it myself? You know, I've never learned this. Well, just like riding a bicycle, you know, you may have fallen off the first few times, but then now you could ride a bicycle. Gardening, or basically anything in life, is just like that. You're just going to have to experiment and try, and you may fail a lot, but the more failures you get, the more successful you're going to be in the end. So, you know, I've lost many plants, but I've replanted them and they continue to grow, and I try new ones and I find out which ones work best and maybe not so good in my area, and I continue to grow the ones that work best.
Yeah, definitely. And so what would you recommend to somebody if they were asking, like, what was the most nutritious green, and what about, like, you know, can you eat the same green every day?
I see. So, you know, the most nutritious green, I mean, definitely if you look at something like the Andy chart, which is made up by Dr. Joel Fuhrman, stands for Aggregate Nutrient Density Index, they'll say like kale is the most nutritious green. Now, while it is the most nutritious, has a lot of nutrients in there, I don't necessarily recommend eating kale day in and day out, because you're going to miss a lot of the nutrients in other different green leafy vegetables. So I really encourage you guys to eat a variety of leafy greens. Now, you know, your local health food store, Whole Foods, may have a pretty wide variety, but if you start growing your own food, you can even have a much wider variety of greens to select from that have even more nutrients and different nutrients that probably haven't even been researched or discovered yet even.
Yeah, I mean, like, John had all these different greens. I've been doing raw foods for like almost 20 years, and I was amazed at like some of these greens that I have never heard of. Like, one of my favorites that he passed around was Egyptian spinach. And John, you talked a little bit about wild greens.
Yep.
and foraging. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that to get, you know, a lot of nutrients?
Absolutely. So, you know, if you can't have a garden, then I recommend foraging. But if you are going to forage, meaning going out into nature, into Central Park or wherever, to pick your greens, and actually I think going to Central Park is illegal, and picking greens.
Yeah,
but if
there is a forager who takes people out
right,
there.
yeah, Wild Man Steve
Brill.
So if you do that, you definitely need to go out with somebody that knows what they're doing, because, you know, many plants may be edible, but many plants may also be very poisonous. So be 150% sure and stake your life on whatever you're eating, because, you know, you could have some bad reactions. So if you live in the New York area, I highly encourage you guys to get with Steve Brill and go out on a wild foraging walk, so that you'll learn the ones that you can and cannot eat raw. Some things are edible, but you have to cook them to get rid of some of the bitter alkaloids and some other things in like that. But that's an excellent way to get food. But even better than foraging for your own food, what I recommend to you guys is actually go out and forage with the Wild Man Steve Brill, learn the plants you could eat, taste them, and harvest the seeds. Bring the seeds home. The seeds contain all the material, the genetics to actually grow that same plant in your yard under the optimal and best conditions. I mean, grown in Central Park, I don't know if they're spraying stuff, they're probably not using organic fertilizer. The soil may not have the trace minerals in it, but if you take those seeds home and put it in a rich bed full of compost and things like rock dust and other amendments to build up your soil biology, then you could grow those seeds with the highest level of nutrition in the soil, which will then go into the plant, and then you're going to eat the plant, and you're going to have the highest level of nutrition ever.
Wow, that's great information. Now, John, I wanted to ask you if you could help me with a personal problem that I'm having. I had a garden for many years, and then the animals on our property, and it's interesting that we don't put pesticides on our lawn, and we just noticed that most of the animals seem to be on our property. And we have like a whole family of woodchucks underneath the shed, and lots of wild rabbits and other animals, and they dig down and they get into the garden. I've tried numerous things, but I haven't found anything that could help. Do you have any ideas?
Sure. So, this is a common problem with pests and disease, or even just other wild animals eating the stuff that you're wanting to eat. And, there's basically a few things you can do. I mean, the standard conventional thinking is, number one, build a better mousetrap, or in this case, a better fence. So you could actually build the fence and get some wire mesh that actually goes underneath the ground to some level so that they can't actually burrow underneath and get there. Of course, unless you dig down real far, they can keep digging down further, but I don't know if animals are going to do that. And then make it really tall so that they can't jump over it or get through it because you have small little grates or small little holes in the fencing. That's one way to do it. But that could get actually very expensive, to surround your area with a full screened on fence. Another way you could do it is actually just build like a little frame with netting on it that has a small weave on it, and just put that over one small bed so that at least they can't get in that one bed. And then you could build it out of PVC or thin wood and lift the whole thing off and then set it to the side and work, and then put it back on. You may have to do it instead of bird netting, which actually has small little holes and it's made out of nylon. Some animals may be able to chew on that. You could get some kind of like wire fencing with small holes, so that's another thing you can do. I mean, the main thing is that, because you're pesticide free on your property and you're growing things like lettuce, which is pretty normal for us, but think about it. Out in nature, there's no lettuce for the animals to eat. Like when you're growing lettuce, that's like a smorgasbord. That's like gourmet food for them. It's like, they got dandelions, they got stinging nettles, they got all kinds of different foods out in nature. But, they can get that anytime they want your lettuce, because they can't get that. And they want to expand their nutrients that they're taking in as well. The other thing you can do to grow food in your garden is to outsmart them. So it's very easy to outsmart them, just like I just talked about. In nature, there's all these different greens that they're normally eating that are edible. So what you could do is wild harvest those seeds, bring those back into your garden, once again growing in rich compost and rock dust, and grow those literally weeds or wild foods in your garden that they could eat anywhere. Why are they going to break in through any kind of fence or put themselves at danger because there's humans around to eat stuff that's growing in nature when they don't need to? So those are the two techniques that I'd suggest to you.
Nettles and sorrel and lamb's quarter and
exactly,
those kind of great
exactly.
Wow.
Plantain.
That's great
all
advice.
Kinds of things.
Wonderful advice. So John, John, thank you for this great information.
You're welcome.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the other things that you do?
Sure.
And your YouTube videos?
Yeah, excellent. So the main thing I do is I offer appliances that allow you to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, such as the juicers and the blenders, and you could learn more about that at discountjuicers.com. I produced over 250 videos that actually compare the juicers and different blenders side by side, and even dehydrators, to let you guys know, which juicer may be the best for you. Just because it's the best for me may not mean it's the best for you. It depends on your specific needs. So I make videos to basically eliminate the confusion so that you could actually see what the juicers do and how they perform under various situations, juicing things from carrots to melons to wheatgrass. So that's one thing I do. The other thing I do is okraw.com, which is where I share my raw food teaching. So I've been on this path for 17 years now, and I have a lot of videos, and most of my videos are actually practical videos that I'll share with you some knowledge that will make your life better today. So practical videos such as how to save money on buying produce in bulk at the wholesale produce terminal, or how to go and buy organic produce at things like your warehouse club store like Costco. One video I did, I actually went to Sam's, BJ's, and Costco to compare to see which one would reign supreme with carrying organics. I think Costco is actually better. But all kinds of cool little videos where I share tips with you that can actually help you, whether you're going to get it started in raw foods, or whether you want to increase your raw food percentage, or whether you want to increase your produce quality. I share that on that website. The final website is actually probably my most important website overall. It's simply called growingyourgreens.com. And that goes to my YouTube channel, where I share with you guys how to grow your own food, because that over anything else is the most important thing you could do today. Our food choices are severely limited by corporations and other influences in the world, but if we take control of our foodstuffs back in our own hands, we could eat much wider varieties, a lot healthier food, and a lot more nutrient-dense food, so we could be as healthy as we can be.
That's great. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Karen.